Also, for most people, it's a need to actually have famous people that they can identify with or have some sort of relationship with. They may not be driven to try to become famous themselves, but there's a sort of cultural or societal need as a whole that goes back to some very primitive needs, which according to, well, Payne is sort of giving us he's recounting Fraser's Golden Bough and then Walter Burkert, who wrote this book called Homo Nicans. But the idea is that we have this relationship. In the case of Burkert, it's to like a sacred sacrificial animal, or in the case of Fraser, to a god, which helps us form a community. We can't even form a community without this sort of relationship. And so fame sort of takes that over once we get to a stage where religion is no longer as significant as it used to be, fame and celebrity sort of fulfill that function that whether it was religious shamans or, Go ahead.
I remember you saying something about that now, about human sacrifice, all right, that we need to sort of imprint or project all our aggression or desires outward onto some other person and then sacrifice them at some point when they displease us. So it sort of helps us exercise some of our own aggression as a society.
Yeah, we need to sublimate that aggression. I mean, to form a community, we have to have these sort of libidinal or friendly bonds to one another. And to do that, we have to find a way to get rid of aggression, sort of.
Yeah, turn it outwards.
Yeah, turn it outwards.
It's much safer than turning it on one another, isn't it?
Yeah, one way of doing that is to direct it towards a sacrificial animal. So for Burkert, and Payne sort of recounts this, the sacrifice is what he sees as sort of the foundational moment for a community, and even for the development of language, for symbols. The sacrificial animal, in a way, is the first symbol. The reason why that's important is because, so Burkert talks about going from a hunting community where you need to kill things in order to live, and there's a fundamental conflict there. And when human beings become conscious that they're going to die, they strongly identify with these animals they're killing, and they're driven by this conflict between having to kill things to live and then their own desire to live. So part of the atonement for that guilt of killing and for the anxiety that to kill one living thing is to kill life itself and to sort of deplete the cosmos of any life-giving qualities is to engage in this sacrificial ritual, which in a way is like a kind of undoing.
An honoring of the life force.
Yeah, it's an honoring, and it's a way of undoing the idea that you're killing off life itself. So you elevate this animal, you make this animal important. So at the same time, you're dealing with anxiety about mortality, and then you're channeling these aggressive impulses to something outside of the community.
Yeah, and we love seeing those wounded animals in the magazines. I was looking at Demi Moore at the Chinese food store last night, and she was on the front looking really thin but smiling, and she had her hands on the shoulders of a little African boy saying, "I want to adopt." And you're just like, yeah, okay, that's going to make you complete. But that's what every crazy woman should do. She should adopt a child, you know. And but it's that wounded creature struggling to get up and do something in her mind that's really good. We just want to watch that and kind of be snooty about it. Well, maybe that's just me. I don't know. But I do recognize what you're talking about in the Demi Moore headlines, you know, because she's such a wounded creature right now.
Is she?
Yeah, she sort of lost her marbles when her toy boy left her because, you know, he's 12 and he wanted to find somebody his own age to marry. Right? Ashton Kutcher.
So now I have this image of Lucy Lawless reading all the celebrity tabloids.
I know, everybody
You're not
knows
only a
this
celebrity,
stuff.
but you're into celebrity.
Look, I'm just explaining to you.
She was researching for the episode.
Hey,
That's
I tell you
all.
what, I bloody sacrificed myself last week, man, because I went and watched the true Hollywood story of Britney Spears, because it's...
Wow.
I did it for you.
Well, that's
some
legitimate
research.
preparation for this
That
episode.
I
is.
tell you what was fascinating is that I saw how those stalkerazzi really did make her life much more of a hell than I would ever have believed. And it's a way that we as consumers of these shitey magazines, we buy them, but we abrogate ourselves of any of the responsibility for the way those images are collected. You know, like our hands are clean. I just paid $2.30. That's all, you know, I'm not stalking her. Oh yeah, we are. It's horrifying how we turn these people into, whether they asked for it or not, and there's a lot of complicity in it, of course, but we have turned them into animals that we're hunting down, man. It's like, get a wicker man and stuff that kid in it so we can bloody laugh while she burns.
Yeah, there's this impulse to, I mean, and I think this is part of what Payne is trying to understand, why we have this desire to idealize and worship and then suddenly turn that into demonization. And there's a Huffington Post article today or yesterday, I think, on the slut shaming of, I forget her name. Is it Kristen Stewart? Is that
over having an affair with the director or something?
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, so that's a perfect example of, you know, you idealize, and she sort of has this, she was a child actress as well, so there's kind of a little girl quality.
Yeah.
And she's also, there's a reticence to her. She's sort of the perfect object for these sorts of fantasies and for...
Because we all loved her when she was an awkward teenager who looked like she might cut herself in her spare time. Like, she looks so sort of on the edge. We're going to love her and support her because she's bloody talented, actually.
Right. I agree.
But you're right. She goes and makes an adult mistake, and we're going to, in a very C.S. Lewis kind of way, we're going to punish her for growing up and making a mistake that 50% of married people in America do.
Right. The first sign of sexuality, and it's this sort of hysterical reaction. And of course, the media sort of loves it. They glom onto that, and that creates headlines for weeks.
Let me ask the question. I mean, the assumption then of Payne's book, right, is that we are violent creatures. It endorses a particular view of, you know, almost a state of nature, right? The nasty British and short point of view that we're violent creatures and that somehow in forming communities, in order to be civilized, we have to have an outlet for that violent aggression, and that fame is somehow this relationship between individuals and the community whereby we are able to enact or live out certain kinds of violence. So are celebrities set up then specifically for the purpose to fail or to be caught in these traps, to find the flaws that we need to set somebody up in order to have this failure?
The book really explores all the different ways and reasons that people become famous, court famous people, don't they? So, yeah, it's interesting to see kids who didn't ask for fame. Oh, you know, let's see what happens to Tom Cruise's child. Don't you find it so disgusting that we know people's 3-year-old's name and we're acting like we know them? We don't know our neighbor's kids, but we know Suri Cruise and what the hell she's wearing on her feet this week. It's really perverse. What's that about?
Yeah.
Well, I like that you pointed out the sort of self-hating aspect of it, that we all, even though, you know, most of us participate to some degree in this culture that puts celebrities in this position, that we sort of blame, oh, it's the media's fault. It's the hoi polloi. And yet who is the hoi polloi? I mean, is it just that I'm saying this from an isolated position and there really are sincere, non-self-hating celebrity worshipers?
Yes, I think there are.
And that is the mass of the issue? Or is it, I tend to feel like it's us reflective ones, as you were saying, are sort of to blame as well. I mean, even if you're just economically supporting it a little.
I don't think any of us escape celebrity worship.
We're talking about it. The fact that we're talking about it.
Yeah, whether it's sports stars or whatever, right? Does it go back to that thing? Who talked about Zeus splitting us with the double people? Was it in Symposium?
Plato's Symposium. Yeah.
Is it part of that we sense some lack of wholeness, so we're trying to fill it with all kind of delicacies like stuff that can't possibly nourish you? And this is just another one of those addictions that we have to.
Lucy, could I tell you a story about Jesus?
Tell me a story. Tell me about Jesus.
I'm just saying that's exactly what a significant portion of our listenership, and we'll just say, you know, well, that's part of human nature, is this having a hole in you, and that's exactly what religion jumps in to take advantage of. And, you know, talking from Payne's point of view, actually, what you're saying, like, that is the appropriate role of religion, and he considers this celebrity worship as a religious phenomena. It's not really that different, even if you're completely secular and you say, oh, I don't want to make these crazy metaphysical claims about God or whatever. The role psychologically that these things had historically is very much the same role that celebrities have now.
Yeah. That's interesting. Sometimes I think that, not talking about what God is, whether there is a a god or not, but the structure of certainly what I was raised in, the God belief, is almost like just replicating that inner sense. So if I get up a la Descartes and I'm going to doubt everything that I ever was told about God, and I look around and I see so much chaos and people are kind of doing bad things and they might cut in front of me, I want to think that there is some big Mac Daddy inner sense out there that is going to take revenge and they'll get what's coming to them. Then my God is like a means of revenge for me, and that the God will take the revenge.
The Furies, yes.
The Furies will come down on you. I'm going to will them down on you. I know them personally. I did a few episodes with them.
I like the fact that your example of evil in the world is people cutting in front of you.
Yeah, don't mess with me, Orwell.
It really is evil, whatever, I agree. I don't disagree with it.
No, but it's dumb stuff like that. You know, somebody's making me so mad, I want revenge on them. Well, I'm not really going to chase in my car, but I'm going to sick the Furies. I'm going to sick my God. Hang on, why am I talking about that? Because you were talking about... I'm using God. I'm going
to sick Lucy Lawless on my enemies.
No, but I'm using God like a big black dog that's going to come after you. But on celebrities, I'm the big black dog that's going to get rid of the celebrity. I've built them up and now I'm going to vote them off the island, like as is in this book.
When they displease you, yes.
Yeah, when they displease me.
That's the way he puts it. He says normally we have this cycle of celebration, consecration, and sacrifice is one of his things. But in other places in the book, it sounds like that's not inevitable. It's just that when the celebrities displease us, then we're so willing to turn against the ones that we've worshipped. He also kind of puts with that we kind of set them up to fail, that we have these impossible standards of beauty, and we sort of expect people's peak age to fade. I mean, I just think of how many people sort of look at their favorite bands or something and don't think like, oh, well, their early stuff was good and then they sold out at something, they're looking for something. I sort of am aware of that. I go out of my way to try to be generous, and like, I'm not really sure whether the sacrifice part is built into the phenomenon of celebrity, or just like you're saying, that once we've given our heart to something, then when it pisses us off, then we overreact.
Or when the beauty fades, you want to get a fresh one, get a fresh virgin. You know, when she cuts her hair off, which I see as, in the book it goes on about Brittany cutting her hair off very publicly. And that's the sort of thing women do when they're wanting to get a divorce. They go and cut all their hair off, right? It's about taking back your power, I think. And you take on a male role, and cutting your hair off is a very significant thing for a woman.
Part of this all sounds a lot like we're conflating generic Schadenfreude, being happy that other people who have success get brought down to us, sort of the phenomenon of wanting to cut all the strands of wheat that stick out. It seems to be related to what happens with fame, but it doesn't seem to be exactly that. And part of the deal with fame is that people want it. So part of the story in Payne's book was that you had virgins that were sacrificed and the way people turned on celebrities and stuff like that. But it seems to me that a big part of it is that they want it.
Yeah.
So the virgins who were being sacrificed fought over the privilege to do that. And the athletes who are going to be tossed out after they lose, a fraction of their batting average or whatever, fight tooth and nail to get there. And the politicians, and they're all trying to get there and enjoy that fame, whatever that is.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
In the book, he talked about glory over death. We're going to die anyway. I might as well die sooner with a whole lot of glory. Go out and do something spectacular with my life.
Yeah, I think part of celebrity worship, it's not just like there are celebrities and they're these sort of gods or demigods and we worship them. There's often the idea that if we get lucky or if we work hard enough, we could become one of them. And that's part of the identification that's going on. Is that what you're getting at, Dylan?
I'm not even thinking about identification. I'm thinking about the whole part about fame, which is distinguishing yourself from other people. If you really want to be famous, you don't want to be like everybody else. I mean, if you crave being famous, you want to make sure that you are different and distinguished from everybody else. So if you want to be famous by being the one chosen to be sacrificed, you're fighting for that. And you don't want somebody to get cut in line for you for that. If you want to be the most famous band in the world, you want other people to be successful, but you really want your band to be the most famous. You're craving notoriety, you're craving success, and it gets all smudged together, right? That you want to be successful for the right reasons and stuff like that. But fame doesn't distinguish between those things.
How typical is that motivation, though, for people? I mean, how many people are motivated by that?
I think resentment is a pretty key